Welcome into Wrestling Spotlight TV. We're in the spotlight with a man who may well be the hottest person in the professional wrestling universe right now. Um, the little clip I have from your match against Kross at GCW Bloodsport before Mania, I put it up last week right before I went to the Cauliflower Alley Club to kind of give a little promotion to the interview. It's now over 250 hours of views on TikTok. Killer Kross, former KarrionKross, got the book right here, Life is Fighting. Kross, thanks so much for taking the time to step in the ring. Really appreciate it. And man, you were so organically over at the GCW Bloodsport and really kind of highlighted the multifaceted fighter that you are, and the book kind of gets into it too. How many styles of combat sports have you been trained in?
Oh man. Well, I never thought about it that way. As a kid, I dabbled in a lot of different types of martial arts, which I covered in the book, but I didn't spend a lot of time in them. But the ones that I did spend a lot of time in, amateur and catch wrestling, Kyokushin, which is a form of karate that's very akin to freestyle kickboxing, as you'd see it in modern sports.
Mm-hmm.
Boxing for sure, Western. Um, Definitely jujitsu. That's my go-to now. I never thought I'd be a jujitsu guy. I was more of a catch wrestler, but there's a big difference,
Yeah.
believe it or not. And I mean, those are the big five. I would definitely say right off the bat. I did Muay Thai for a bit, but I've always favored freestyle Kyokushin kickboxing over Muay Thai. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I just, with my range, it's always worked a lot better for me than Muay Thai. In practice, I'm not allowed to elbow the guy in the head. So what am I doing Muay Thai for? Might as well just do
Yeah.
freestyle kickboxing. So yeah, I've been involved with all that stuff, and I appreciate you bringing up the blood sport. We got to be careful how we talk about blood sport because that night I got German suplexed and power bombed. We can't dispel the myth of me not taking any bumps. If you've seen the Bloodsport show,
Yeah.
then that,
It's
that might ruin
clear as
that
day.
interesting fantasy.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you've been going at it. I mean, in AAA, in Lucha Underground, in New Japan, MLW, FSW back in Las Vegas. Give a little love to our friends in Las Vegas. You've taken every bump. I mean, you had a match against Mox right before you entered NXT. I mean, it's unscripted violence, so you're getting into it. It's some of it, and something that I like to avoid on our channel is the tribalism and
Oh,
this
sure.
promotion's better than that one. I mean, you can enjoy everything,
Of
and
course.
something that I pulled out of the book is that, and I agree with it because you hear it in all sorts of areas. Every experience you have, every day is really kind of like a battle, like a match, like a game. And I mean, you pulled things from back when your dad took you to a boxing gym and there was a guy that jumped into the trunk of your car. I thought that was a great story. Can you get into that a little bit because it really kind of reflected how your dad embodied that, every day is a fight too. Life is fighting philosophy.
Yeah, I don't. My parents never wanted me to be afraid of what's going on in the world or going outside. They wanted me to have a normal childhood. Kids that
Hmm.
you go to the park and you play and you get involved with sports. They don't want you being afraid of all the things that the adults know are out there that could potentially happen. And one morning, and story from the book for anyone who's unfamiliar. One morning, my father was training a bunch of fighters, and he always had this gigantic. The bag was bigger than me. It was a duffel bag full of boxing equipment. So hit pads, headgear, gloves, shoes, the jump rope for a few
Hmm.
people, and that was always in the trunk. And he popped the trunk one morning, and I'm sitting in the back seat. It's not as if when he pops the trunk, I turn around and I look what's going on. The trunk pops, you get out of the car, and then you go around and you get the bag out of the car. It's the same routine as every morning. Well, he popped the trunk, and then the trunk pops and then it closes. And he told me to stay in the car. So he goes around back of the car, opens the trunk, and there's a guy inside of the trunk. And I didn't see how this happened in one sequence after the other. For the longest time, I just thought there was a guy in our trunk, which didn't make any sense. You
Yeah,
know, you wake up with your dad, you have breakfast, and then he drives to where he works with a guy in his trunk to let him out before he goes to work. I just never knew what
sure.
happened. So, they just told me it was, part of my imagination that it never happened. As I got older, they told me, yeah, hey, the guy, was suffering from substance abuse. He was a drug addict. He was probably jonesing, looking for something. He was up all night, and we don't know why he did that. We popped the trunk, and he decided to climb in the trunk, and he closed it. So my father kept me in the car to get him out of the trunk. Something interesting about that, though, is you know, he never hit the guy. He never punched the guy. And I always remembered that. And I had seen my father defend himself and defend other people by punching people. But this particular guy, he never punched him. He used wrestling to disarm him
Hmm.
and throw him up in the air. And I asked him about that one day, and I just said, we were talking about it. He just said, look, there was no reason for me to punch that man. He was, like emaciated. I was much bigger than him. And he was coming down or high on drugs and was just doing crazy things. Maybe he was thinking he wanted to get out of the neighborhood, so he climbed in the trunk. Maybe he did it to stay warm. We don't
Yeah.
know. But the bottom line is my baby son is in the car, and the bag of equipment that I have in the trunk, I need to get that out so I can go upstairs and make a living and bring home money so I can feed everybody. And this guy's in the way. So I did the best to get him out of the way. And he explained to me, it's very personal to hit somebody in the face. It's a very personal thing.
Hmm.
It's a very personal thing, especially if you damage somebody's face. Now, every single time they wake up and they look in the mirror, they see something wrong with their teeth or their eye. Maybe you broke a bone in their face. They're going to think about you, and
Yeah, especially
that's
as an
not the kind
adult.
of thing. Yeah, that's not the kind of thing you want on somebody's mind every single time they look at themselves for their whole lives. They might snap and go crazy, and becomes a retaliatory thing. So it was an interesting lesson. It had many layers and hit me very differently as I grew up. But I was very cognitive of that as I got into altercations growing up. And I got in a lot of them because I was involved with the nightlife industry. So
Hmm. Yeah, and I think those altercations, those incidents, it really does kind of play in. I mean, there's a lot of talk in wrestling that the character, the persona that you have is yourself turned to 11. And when you read the book, you can hear the philosophy coming out, the deep thinking, and it really does kind of weave in to some of the promotions that you do, some of the backstage pieces, talking about time running out and valuing the moment. Even more recently, I want to expose the true you. How much does your your kind of deep thinking, philosophical nature influence your wrestling persona, your wrestling career?
greatly, because I always think, unless there's a script that's delegated to you from creative, if you have the opportunity or you've been instructed to draw from your own place and bring that to life, kind of to fill in the gaps of where certain things are missing to make your segment unique from the other ones, it's got to come from somewhere, right? If it's not
Hmm.
coming from entertainment inspirations like books or comics or music or movies or TV, maybe it's coming from real life experiences. And I've always actually, ironically, found that the work that I've done that people remember the most fondly has never been from the inspirations that I found from entertainment. It's been um, things that I've actually gone through in real life that I've translated into improvisational pieces in wrestling, which is interesting. I never realized that until recently, actually.
Yeah. Well, and you also get into, which I fully understand, because it helps dramatically to have a partner with you as you're going through the different stages, the different fights. I mean, just personally with myself, changing careers, uh, starting this as a podcast and then becoming a 24/7 TV channel. Wouldn't have done it without my wife there helping me along the way and giving me input and helping creatively when we're working with some of the different independent promotions that we do. How much is Scarlett an integral part of the whole Kross persona?
Very, very important. Very important. I think that she can offer two different functionalities off the top of my head. So on the independents, people have always seen a babyface version of Kross. Not always, but more so than not. Scarlett has been sort of a equalizer to when the heels would try to cheat against Kross to get one over. She prevents them
Mm-hmm.
from cheating. Um, as a heel, she would be helping Kross cheat in order to help him achieve the desired result of what he's attempting to do, which may be to turn somebody evil or heel or just win the match, I suppose. But I had to look past the ratios of wins and losses with the latest iteration of KarrionKross, because KarrionKross was not written to win very often, nor was he written to win fairly. And when the premise is always only to win and lose, I think the individual specialty, the nature of your segments begins to blend in with the rest of the program, because the whole program kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
There's not, I think it's important to have stakes in matches. So what I would try to do is I would tastefully integrate some sort of creative stake in the match. What are they really fighting about? Well, Cross is written to, lose again. That's getting old for people. How can I make this interesting for them? How can I make them feel like they're happy they saw this rather than being pissed off that this guy is being written to lose nonstop? Well, he
Mm-hmm.
has an ulterior motive. Oh, what's the motive? Well, he wants to bring out the worst in these people, and he's willing to almost be a martyr for this effort. Now we've got something interesting. And now people are more willing to be entertained in a loss that the character is taking, because
Sure.
we've integrated something unique and interesting versus the rest of the shows and the matches in the program. And I think that's important for the viewer. And I've been on record to say this before. I've said it 1,000 times. I think wrestling, it's really important for wrestling to be a bit of a variety act. There's got to be
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
different, right? And so I
Yeah,
always
not
try to hit
everybody
with
can be
that.
the tough MMA guy going out there and not caring about what anybody thinks. You have to have that personality.
Right. Absolutely. And I've been asked to do that, and those are some of the most boring periods of my career, because I feel like that's very one-dimensional. Also, too, like if people want to watch MMA, they know what pro wrestling is. They'll just watch MMA. So
Hmm.
if you're playing a
Sure.
caricature of something that doesn't even resemble the real version of it nowadays, that's no fun. Give me a character, and I will give you something really unique.
Yeah, give people a reason to care, and you have to take some pride in, probably quite a bit, in the fact that you were getting over organically with a huge chunk of the pro wrestling universe, despite not going over in the match.
It was very special. Yeah. Yeah. That formula can work with baby faces, where they just have the baby face being beaten to a pulp because you're creating an
Hmm.
underdog. But I think accidentally, inadvertently, to their own innocent oversight, perhaps, they were not anticipating people to observe KarrionKross as an underdog. But I think people were able to understand and see through my efforts that there was something more, there was something underneath that really wanted to punch through and give them something special. And I would be able to give them a glimpse of it from time to time, and they wanted more. And when they want more of somebody, they want to see somebody succeed, and you're constantly booking them under. This is only going to make people root harder for you.
Hmm.
I remember when they were asking me to hit Sammy with the lead pipe. I I said to myself, guys, don't you want them to boo me? And they're like, yeah, they're going to boo. They love him. I was like, yes, they do love him, but the baby faces are hitting each other with steel chairs and weapons all the time. This is not going to work. If this were
Yeah.
1985, hitting him with the lead pipe would work. It worked with Rick Rude and Ultimate Warrior when they did the flex off. This is not going to work. They're going to cheer this. Like, no, they're not. I said, yes, they are. Yes,
Yeah,
they are. I said,
people were behind you.
of course. So
So I know we're winding down here on Wrestling
it's okay.
Spotlight,
Keep
but
going. I know I went off
okay,
a little bit. Go ahead.
awesome. No, that's great. I'm just wondering what are fans going to see from Kross now? You're scheduled to go up against the most marketable man in wrestling, Richard Holiday, former
Yes.
MLW champion and GCW. What are they going to see in that?
I'm going to try to kill Richard. I'm going to try to kill Richard. And it's not because I dislike Richard. I really like Richard. Richard and I get along very well, but um, when it comes to being in the ring, him and I are both very competitive. And he talked his way into being on our show, the Killer Smoke
Hmm.
Show in Rahway, New Jersey. So it's a no disqualification match, and he went about it in a way that he knew was going to aggravate me, and people are going to get the killer they've wanted all year, the killer that they've wanted to see for a very long time. That's who's going to be showing up. And I believe all the floor seats are sold out. I think there are other seats available on the show, but I think in 13 hours, I think all of the front row seats were gone. The floor seats are gone now as well, I believe. But there's bleacher seats, I think, still left.
Okay. And you definitely want to go because you get a different experience. There's nothing wrong with WWE, AEW, TNA, but when you go see the smaller shows in the smaller facilities and the just the more intimate setting, you really feel like you're a part of the match. I think quite a bit more, and it gives you that interaction that you may lose in a big arena.
Absolutely.
Now, just to hit on the book one more time, Life is Fighting. What is what's your pitch to the wrestling fan out there to buy the book? Because this is different. I mean, you're kind of getting into you get into life lessons, you get into some philosophy on, hey, this happened to me and this is how I adjusted it. How do you present the book to the wrestling public?
I would, I'd like to tell them that if you're interested in reading my book, you're not going to be reading a book about everything you've watched me do on TV and me just recounting it. I have a lot of stories about my life, how I became a wrestling fan, how it was first introduced to me, everything that happened in my life on the way to get into WWE, what was going on in WWE at the time, and then being released by WWE. Ironically, here we are as well,
Yeah.
which is so strange. But this is going to be a real book. And I think in this day and age where people are so hyper focused on saying the right thing so everybody likes them, even though it's not really how they feel, I can absolutely reassure you guys that this is a very real book. And I'm putting myself out there in the most
Oh,
vulnerable way possible for people to enjoy and be able to relate. And I'm hoping, if anything, you're at the very least entertained. What I'm really hoping for is people have a personal revelation about their own life or situations or relationships reading my book, and that was the aim of this book, going out to people who are willing to read it. I wasn't trying to write a wrestling book. Wrestling just happens to be a very important part of my life.
yeah. I mean, it's really it's a personal journey, and it was a really good bookend for the weekend for me. Like I said, I was at the Cauliflower Alley Club reunion where I got to see a guy that you're familiar with. I know you were taking part in his charity event that we sponsored some for Wrestling Spotlight. The Ultimate Finesser, Chris Bay, won the Courage Award for Cauliflower Alley Club. He's making an amazing recovery from being partially paralyzed after a freak accident in a TNA tag team title match against the Hardys, and just seeing him and if you get a chance to talk to him ever, he's just a great person, just a super positive, you know, always moving forward guy. So it's a person who you'd expect to recover from something because whereas a lot of people would be depressed when they were told you have a 10% chance of walking again, Chris saw it as, oh man, that means I'm going to get there. And he
Yep.
has in record time. I mean, just an amazing turnaround. Reading about your journey, like your first paid fight, saying professional is probably a little bit of a an overstatement, and how
Oh yeah, it was definitely not. It was not a
you
profession.
got to
I
where you're
wish.
at. Did you see yourself headlining major arena shows while you were doing talked into a bare knuckle fight at the back end of a bar with a guy who resembled Danny DeVito's Penguin?
Yeah, he was a grotesque human being. I mean, I had romanticized the idea of fighting for, um, a big fight organization at that time. I thought about it. The idea of it, I loved it. The reality of it, when I was getting into it, you know, I don't think I wrote this in the book, but part of me always felt a little bit bad every time I knocked somebody out. That's going to sound so crazy, but it's true. A part of me always felt a little bit bad. And like, not not in like street altercations where I was really having to defend myself. And I didn't write about every one of those times in the book. The whole book would be full of them if I did that.
Mm-hmm.
And the stories would be pretty redundant. But I always felt a little bit bad. And I think in the back of my mind, I was hoping that whatever that was was going to kind of go away, and it didn't. It really didn't. I enjoyed competing, I really did. But if I got somebody really good, like graveyard dead knockout, like I always felt a little bit bad. So I began to realize over time, like fighting at the highest level was probably not going to be something I was going to be able to 100% commit to for a variety of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That one being one of them. I just thought, like, I wonder if everybody feels like this. And I never talked to anybody about it because I didn't want to find out that they
Pretty much,
didn't,
yeah.
because it would have worked against my confidence. But I always felt a little bit bad. I always felt a little bit bad.
Yeah, I never boxed. I wrestled. Maybe for a similar reason. I didn't want to throw punches to the face. I like the idea of wrestling better because it was more controlled.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just like, I don't know. I remember seeing the first person I had fought in an organized fight again, like a few months later, at one of those bare knuckle boxing venues, and
Hmm.
I wasn't sure. Mind you, I was very young, right? We're talking 17, 18 at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was okay to go up and say hello. I didn't know if we were going to start fighting again. Like I didn't understand the culture. No one. I never had a conversation with the coach about that. How am I supposed to be greeting these people again when I see them? Um, I see him and it's like he's missing teeth. And, he greeted me so warmly and shook my hand. Was like, "Hey, how are you? That was a good fight." We didn't ever talk afterwards. And I talked to
Huh.
him for about 15 or 20 minutes. And the whole time I just kept looking at his mouth. And I
Yeah, that
felt
has to be weird.
I felt bad. I felt
Sure.
bad. I was like, holy cow. But in the moment when you're there and you put yourself there, all you're thinking about is dropping him and getting out in one piece. But I think I subconsciously struggled with some of the aspects of it. I always felt a little bit bad, and um, yeah,
Well, that's what drove you towards pro wrestling, probably. Because you
maybe
could have
to
went
some
in
de-
any, could have went multiple directions.
to some degree, I think so. Yeah, I was always driven to wrestling to begin with. I think it was just being very stubborn.
Well, and it's a great fit because you get to express yourself. You get your persona out there more than any. I guess I'll say any other combat sport because you don't get to express yourself in boxing or MMA to the same degree. Even as
Yeah.
MMA tries to incorporate a little bit more pro wrestling, it's still not. It's not the
Oh,
same.
yeah. The
Never.
Shakespeare of it, right?
Hmm. Never will
Yeah.
be the drama because you can control it. You can shape it so much more,
Hmm.
and everybody likes the drama.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, they sure do.
the book's available everywhere. Life is fighting. You got a really good look at it. I think we kind of hit a lot of the points in it. What did Just to wrap up? What did you learn personally from going through the exercise of putting everything down on paper? Because that's a hard endeavor to sit down and fill a couple hundred pages, and especially fill a couple hundred pages and make it interesting, make it a fast read, because you're really digging through yourself. To You probably had double the amount written and then squeezed it down to the book.
Yeah, I realized um, how much I overcame once I read it on paper, because I never really spent a lot of time thinking about it, in just idle time down, but really trying to deeply recall things that I had never really thought about, and then writing them on paper in sort of an organized fashion and reading it back to myself. Um, I never realized how much I overcame. And then there were some things that I realized that I still needed to work on. There were some things that I really needed to learn how to work through and let go, and I did, which is why I kept them in the book. And it was very cathartic and therapeutic, actually, to write the book. And I found myself calling up old friends, and having new conversations with my wife and my mother and my sister that I hadn't had before, that were all positive and all really, really good.
Hmm.
And despite the book being out there, I have always considered myself to be a very private person, and I'm not an outward share with everybody kind of guy. I never have been. And I realized that I could lean a little bit more into that and be that way after I worked on a lot of the things that I talked about in the book and worked through them. Now there wasn't this subconscious fear of wearing my heart on my sleeve for people to see. It was always kind of there, but I don't,
Mm-hmm.
unless you knew me, maybe you wouldn't know I was like that. Especially with wrestling, I was running around with a shaved head and constantly talking about
Yeah.
killing people in time. So it's real different. But it was good for me. I can tell you that right now. It was really, really good for me in a very unexpected way. And I'm happy that it's making people feel good when they're reading it more than anything.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's a great note to wrap it up on. Like Kross was saying, you're going to be able to see him back in the ring going up against the self-proclaimed most marketable man in pro wrestling. I honestly think right now the most marketable man in wrestling is right across from me on the screen here. But Richard Holiday, self-proclaimed most marketable man in wrestling, he's going to take on Killer Kross. That is coming up here real soon. And Kross, man, thanks so much for taking the time to step into the ring here in the spotlight on Wrestling Spotlight TV. Really enjoyed talking with you and getting into the book and getting into a little bit of the philosophy that drives you. I think there's tons and tons of fans out there that are pulling for you, and definitely happy to see you hopping back in the ring, and we'll be rooting for you and Scarlett. So that's great, and really enjoyed having you on.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Sure,
Feeling all
thanks
the
a lot.
love from all directions. We're selling out the tickets and seeing everybody and talking to people every day. So I appreciate it. Look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely. Got to see you up in Las Vegas, maybe an FSW reunion.
Well, eventually, that's for sure.
Thanks a lot. We'll see more coming up right here on Wrestling Spotlight TV.